Back together again, eh?
Yeah.
Let's play.
Good afternoon and welcome to Overtime. Donald Trump appears to have done a complete about-face when it comes to his relationship with Russia. How long this lasts, I don't know, but he was expected to take a very hard line at the UN General Assembly a meeting, and we still don't know what his full remarks are going to be, but we do know that he has made a number of comments regarding NATO, Russian aircraft entering NATO airspace, and the war in Russia. First, in regards to the war in Russia, he has said that with time, quote, with time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Now, he later, my understanding was, clarified that by original he meant 2014, and that's extraordinarily important because for a lot of people, original means after the seizure of Crimea, especially in the United States. There are a lot of people who don't understand the nuance between the actual invasion of the war and the what's usually referred to as the full-scale invasion afterwards. So they started by taking Crimea, waited a few years, and then went after the rest of the country. So this would be basically a restoration of the complete country, including Crimea, which Putin has had off the table since the day he took it. It is the exact opposite of the position that Putin has been taking from the beginning, and appears to be a complete agreement with the position of Volodymyr Zelensky. This is stunning. Trump has said that he is neutral, but has for the most part adopted a pro-Russian stance in his discussions with Ukraine, including, well, we can't really start discussions until you promise to give up some land. At this point, he is saying they shouldn't have to give up any land, and that they are in a position to win back all of Ukraine. Let's see. He said on Truth Social later that he had come that with a better and more fulsome understanding of Ukraine and Russia's economic and military situations, that he had come to believe, quote, Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win back all of Ukraine in its original form. And that Russia was essentially a paper tiger, and that this was costing Moscow far more in money and gasoline than it could afford. Today presumably was Rapture Day by at least one Christian, quote, prophet. I'm starting to think he may have been on to something. So Trump's new position, he was asked, what about Russian planes going into NATO territories? Did he believe that NATO should, at a minimum, engage those planes, or I should say, intercept those planes and engage them? His answer to that was, yes, I do. He later clarified that on the engagement, it depended on the circumstances. Marco Rubio essentially said the same thing. I don't believe that Russia would attack NATO, ergo, unless they're attacking, they shouldn't be shot down, but they should be intercepted. But all of those claims are completely in line with NATO's position, and is, again, a staggering change from his previous term where he said we should leave NATO entirely. What has prompted this change, we don't know. Ostensibly, part of it is the result of Russia's penetration and incursion into Poland and Kazakhstan with jets, which Trump sees as provocative. Trump is a strong man and an authoritarian. We believe that we have in our discussion of this sort of thought in the past that he has looked up to Putin, and I think that's a defensible position that we've held. Something appears to have soured the relationship. This could be an attempt to get everyone to stop talking about the Epstein files. He may be getting desperate on that front, or it may be something genuine on his part. We do know, and this is something that I think he deserves credit for. He is against war, and he seems to be fundamentally against war. The cynic in me says it's because it's bad for business, but that's not really true. If he were for war, he could make at least as much, if not more money than he makes in real estate. It is bad for real estate, and he likes being in the real estate business, but I don't think this man has a great many principles, but ending war does appear to be one of them. My suspicion is he feels somewhat humiliated and used. A number of people inside his administration appear to have told him that he has been played by Putin. I think he would find that very, very difficult to believe. But if he ever reached the conclusion that that was true, he would retaliate strongman style, and we would be seeing what we're seeing. That is at least one potential explanation for what we're seeing. We don't have an answer. This just literally came out of the blue. For those of you joining us just now, again, he has essentially said that he doesn't see any reason why, actually, I'm going to quote it, aside from saying Ukraine, with the support of European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. And he did clarify he meant the 2014 borders, so that would include Crimea. Quote, with patience and the financial support of Europe and in particular NATO, which would include us, and he was asked if it was meant to include us, and he said yes, with the exception of, well, I'll get to that. The original borders where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Because Putin has nukes, and he has said that it's a hard no. Now, that's not a hard why not. I think that he's right. I love how stopping this war before he even gets into the presidency is going to be easy. Now that he appears to be on the right side of things, that's going to be easy too. It's like, yeah, Ukraine can get back all this. Why not? Because Putin is saying no. And he means it. So my hope is that Trump really does intend to man up. That would be unusual for him, but we'll see. This cavalier attitude is indicative of him, so I don't think there's anything that can be read into it. It's just like, yeah, sure, they can win it all back. If any country can do it, it's Ukraine, and I absolutely believe they can do it, but why not? Really? Okay. Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form. Who knows? Maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. They could go further than taking it back? And by the way, he is swung like a pendulum. One of the things that we've said is he is most likely to believe the last person he's spoken with. And we heard that first in reference to cabinet meetings where people had learned to leave the room last and get in the last word because that's what's going to stick and that's what he's going to believe. But that's also true of just over time. So if he calls up Zelensky and he has a conversation with Zelensky, the rest of the day, the rest of the week, he's pro-Ukraine. When he then talks to Putin, he's pro-Russia until he talks to Macron. And then he's pro-Ukraine, but there are complications and we'll sort it out. And then he talks to Zelensky and just, no, it's Ukraine again. But this is different. He was asked also if the U.S. would be willing to engage Russian airplanes, and he clarified that no, they would not, except as members of NATO. So we would not go it alone, and only if those planes were hostile. But he said that he had profound concerns over the invasion of airspace by Russian airplanes, and they should be intercepted by NATO, and the U.S. should be a part of it. And if it was necessary, they said, should NATO be willing to shoot down hostile Russian aircraft? He was asked if he believed they should. He said, yes, I do, when posed the question about NATO shoot-downs during a meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky. So this was on the sidelines of the General Assembly. He was with Zelensky at the time. So like I said, he really... but it's a staggering position. We wanted to make you aware of it. I hope it holds. I hope it's his sort of final say on the matter. It's not going to be. There's going to be wiggle room, but if the new center has been moved to here, hopefully he's going to orbit this center generally, and sometimes he's going to be like, well, he'll get back most of it. Crimea is going to be a bit of a challenge, and then, we'll see. He also seemed to suggest that the U.S. would not be willing seemed to suggest, did not say, but seemed to suggest that the U.S. would not be willing to involve itself more directly in supporting Ukraine, that was really an issue for the EU and, funnily enough, NATO. So good on him if he sticks with it. It's obviously breaking newsworthy, so we've gone to that. I'm sure you're going to get, our job is to let you know of the breaking. You're going to get, I think, more details on the specifics of this with Greg Terry's channel, because he does the real deep dives, and he may have some background knowledge on this that we do not. The other thing we wanted to bring to your attention, it's not entirely breaking, it happened earlier today. Jimmy Kimmel's show has been restored by ABC. This was something we kept trying to explain. People keep saying, well, he's been canceled, his show has been canceled. Well, it's been suspended. It has now been restored. There appear to be no conditions to the restoration, so it appears to be essentially a mea culpa by ABC. What they basically have said is that the joke that he made was at an inappropriate time, and it was a little early to be making jokes like that. But there doesn't seem to be, they're essentially claiming that they took it down so everyone could have time to reflect. Now that they've reflected, they're bringing it back. Having said that, predictably, Nexstar and Sinclair media groups are not going to be carrying the show. We've had this discussion about what these groups are. They are affiliate groups that run all of the affiliates, the channels that actually air ABC's content. This has been hailed as a great day for, when he was taken down, a great day for the chairman of the FCC said this is a great day for independent affiliates who can decide what's best for their community. And to some extent, I agree with that, which is to say that if you have a television station that you own, and that station is in a deeply religious area, there may be some content you would preempt and rather not air, either because you don't want to be firebombed or just because you're afraid that it's going to, cause a tremendous backlash. There's local affiliates and television stations all across the country. Not all content's going to be 100% for all of them. Having said that, things that have been preempted before have, for example, the show where Ellen DeGeneres came out as gay was preempted in a number of markets. But that's a choice being made by a private owner of a television station that is affiliated with a network like ABC, CBS, so on and so forth. That's not what's happening here. That's not even close to what's happening here. And the FCC chair either doesn't understand the first thing about how television works in this country, or he's deliberately lying. Because it's the media affiliate groups, Nexstar and Sinclair, that have decided not to air it. Now, these media groups essentially own the channels. So the channels do have a private owner, but it's the media groups that represent those owners. And if they say that they're not carrying it, no television station that's part of that affiliate group can air the content. In total, Sinclair represents about 40% of the market. They represent, yes, they represent 40% of the market. Nexstar represents about 30% of the market. So in total, that's 70% of the televisions in this country that will be unable to see the show because the two affiliate groups have decided not to air it. ABC is still bringing it out. But if you're in a market that wants to see it, it doesn't matter if you're part of the Sinclair group, because that group is not going to air it to you and not permit it to be aired to you. Doesn't matter how many people call up your station and say, we want to see Jimmy Kimmel. You can't do anything about it, even if you own the damn station, because you're a member of the Sinclair group. So, what does this mean? To some extent, it means that organizations can save face. The FCC can save face. Jimmy Kimmel is back on air, but the two groups that objected most to the joke, they claim to have objected to the joke, will still not air him. Both of those groups have significant mergers coming up. With Sinclair, the merger is with, I've forgotten the name of the group. Let me see if I can find it. They're going to be... Oh, no, it's Nexstar, who is second to Sinclair right now. They're going to be merging with... They have a $4.6 billion merging deal with Tenga. Now, Tenga is third. But if Tenga and Nexstar merge, they will represent by themselves almost 80% of the entire market. By themselves. Now, no company is allowed to own up more than 39%. They're not allowed to get up to 40%. So this would require a change in the FCC rules, which should not be made. There's a reason that they don't allow a single media group to have more than 40% of the market. This would give Nexstar just about 80% of the entire television market. 80% of all of the television stations would essentially be under the umbrella of the Nexstar affiliate group. But the FCC seems to indicate that they're willing to make the change to their rules, but that has to be done by the FCC chairman, who also has to sign off on the deal. He is very MAGA and indicated earlier, literally as a threat. I mean, it was it's a nice broadcasting license you got there. It would be a shame if something happened to it. And he said that the affiliates and the affiliate groups should do something if ABC refuses to. And he said if they don't, then that's just going to make a lot more work for the FCC, meaning that the FCC was going to get involved if the affiliate groups didn't do something. So they did. They're continuing to do it because the deals have not gone through yet. But there is no evidence that anybody at either Nexstar or Sinclair had any objections to the joke. Nobody at ABC had any objections to the joke. And three sources from inside ABC, which is the parent company of ABC, three people at Disney have said that nobody inside the boardroom there had any problem with the joke. In fact, they had to go over the video multiple times to try to figure out what was so objectionable. And it wasn't until they got clarification from the FCC chair what was absolutely the most disgusting thing he had ever seen, which was referring to the shooter. I think it's an uncharitable way to view what he said, but certainly it is an interpretation of what he said, that he was saying that the shooter was conservative. He was saying the conservatives were doing their best to distance themselves from the shooter. but they might already be distant. It's not. It doesn't entail that because the left's been doing the same thing, because nobody knows. Nobody knew which side. So the left was like, it's got to be the far right, man. Did you know that 80% of shooters are far right? It's the far right. So the left has been distancing itself from him. Doesn't mean he's on the left. The right's been distancing itself from him. Doesn't mean he's on the right. But people who want to pick a fight sit there and say, oh, he's saying that he's on the right and we don't know. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. If that's the most disgusting thing that the FCC chair has ever seen, oh, dear Lord, do I envy the man. And he's got no business being the head of the FCC. At any rate, it's obvious that this was cooked up by the FCC to give Trump an excuse to maybe snatch the licenses, which he said on Air Force One that he was willing to do, that any group or any network that was giving him bad press, maybe they should lose their licenses. I mean, he won, so it can't be that many people who dislike him. But if the networks are all 100% or 97%, he said, against him, then maybe those licenses need to go. That's not how the licensing process works, nor do I expect Trump to understand that. At any rate, what do we have? We have Jimmy Kimmel is back on air in such a way that ABC has tacitly, if not implicitly, admitted that he probably should not have been taken down, but they had erred on the side of caution. There's been no mention of whether or not there are any restrictions on him. My suspicion is that while he won't escalate, he's still going to play things close to the line. And I think there's a reason, and I think ABC's aware of that, and I think they're just going to have to see what happens. The fact that currently Nexstar and Sinclair will not air it is a huge bonus for them, because he can say just about anything he wants, and the people who would be most outraged will have to go out of their way to find it, and their argument can be, well, wait a minute, it wasn't even aired in your market. So in some ways, it's almost a best of all worlds. I suspect this means it's going to be the end of the Jimmy Kimmel show. His contract is up for renewal in May. All of late-night television has been hemorrhaging money, despite the fact I think Colbert was fired for his political beliefs, not because the show was losing money. The show was, in fact, losing money. So Kimmel is losing money. They're all losing money. And if Kimmel is not airing on nearly 80% of the televisions in this country, they just lost 80% of their ad revenue. So if Kimmel's going to keep making jokes that are going to keep him down with Nexstar and Sinclair, at least until they've made these mergers, there's probably no real reason to renew his contract, and I think he's aware of that, which puts him in the same position Colbert is in, which is now he can say anything he wants to. His first guest tonight will be Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has been particularly spicy recently, so we will see what the two of them do together. Because the show is pre-recorded, they can double-check and go over and just not air what they don't want to air. But hold on a sec. I'll get to live chat in a second. As I said, I think my hope too is that Iger at Disney has heard the oft-repeated phrase that when you give a bully your lunch money, all it does is make him come back the next day even hungrier. And they paid a bribe, and it was a bribe to Donald Trump to the tune of, I think it was about $16 million, and he wants more now in order for them to be able to keep operating, and it's not going to stop. They can draw the line in the sand now, or they can do it later. If they wait till later, life is easier for them in the short term, but it's going to get harder and harder and harder until it gets to be completely untenable. If they do it now, they've got support, they've got a country that wants to have this discussion. and wants to have it now. So Iger may be making that bet. We'll see. I don't know. So that's the status of Jimmy Kimmel. He is back on air, but most homes will not be able to see him. Probably highlights will be on the interwebs and or certainly available for people who still have Disney and or ABC accounts. So that's it. As to Ukraine, once again, for those of you just joining us, Trump has done a complete about-face, has said that he doesn't, when asked should they be able to get all of their land back, he's like, I don't see why not, which has been the exact opposite of what he's been saying, and he made it clear he meant all the land, including occupied Crimea. He has said that the U.S. should be willing to, as long as they're doing it as members of NATO, should be willing to engage and shoot down Russian planes that are acting hostilely. He and Marco Rubio have clarified that by saying that none of the incursions have, their intentions have been known, so they should be intercepted, but not fired upon. Simply because, yes, it's a hostile act to fly over enemies' territory, but you meet with a proportionate response. If they haven't fired, if they haven't done any damage, you try to find other ways of getting them out of your airspace. And there are ways to do it. Sometimes you damage a plane. We'll see what happens. At any rate, that's where we stand. I'm going to check the live chat really quickly. Yeah, no, I figured Greg would be on this, so no worries. We're just going to do a rundown of it, make sure that everybody, in the shortest time possible, gets a pretty good understanding of what's going on. And if you're interested in the details, as I had suggested earlier, Greg is a place to go. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for In Time with myself and 𝐒𝐨𝐬𝐚𝐬. It should be a good show. Look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night.